What's up, guys? Welcome to Mayflower Sports. This is We All Gamble. I'm Andrew. He is Jake, and that is Noah. Happy to have Noah back with us. Of course, diving into week number 3. I couldn't believe it. Week number 2, we saw 12-3 to the overs. So if you're someone that loves betting overs, you never bet unders, you had a pretty good week. 12-3 to the overs. Personal standpoint, I believe in transparency. I think all of us in the podcast believe in it. I was pretty bad on my picks outside of the prime time. Prime time went well, but other picks did not do very well. So I'm out for vengeance. Looking forward to week 3 and diving into it. But appreciate all of you guys that watched and left a like. And hey, we had like 1 or 2 comments, so shout out to you guys. But bring in Jake. What's up, man? Good to see you.
Yeah, I had a decent week last week. 5-2-1. Obviously, the Kenneth Gainwell best bet didn't go so well. He obviously didn't play, but DeAndre Swift picked up where Gainwell left off and cashed a pretty big parlay that I had the Eagles money line to DeAndre Swift anytime. But 13-8 so far and 1, so hitting at a 65% clip, which I think's pretty good considering the week 1 I gave out like 15 picks. So we're trying to rein it back in here and make sure we're only giving out winners, but not a huge fan of a week 3 slate. I think I said that last week, and I had a pretty good week. So hopefully the good vibes keep going.
We're happy to have Noah back. Good to see you, Noah. Unfortunately, you're back joining us after a Packers loss, but it was a good start for them in week 1. Good to have you back, man.
Thank you, fellas. Appreciate it. I'm gonna start out my record 0-0 right now. I'm just gonna say that I'm just gonna say I'm 0-0. It hasn't been the best betting experience for me in this football year, but we all know I like to do the crazy bets. Never the. I'm gonna try to keep it simple on the podcast, though. I'm gonna try to keep it easy. But yeah, tough Packers loss. We were just actually talking about that right before the camera started rolling. I don't know. Lots of problems with that, but we don't have to talk about that right now. There's too many things to dive into, and my biases will come shining through. So we'll get to the games here. We'll get to the slate.
I gotta just say really quick, I learned my lesson with the DeAndre Swift prop, though. I'm never ever in my life again going to bet a prop just to score a touchdown without betting their rushing or receiving, because that drove me nuts. Like, the fact of the matter is that Swift flew over his rushing yards, landed on the 9 or the 1 yard line like 2 times before he finally got in. I couldn't handle that, man. Seeing a guy like fly over his rushing yards, but then eventually get the TD. I don't know what I would have done if he didn't score after the rushing yard prop going over. So I got to say that, like, I can never take a TD prop ever again unless I'm also taking the receiving yards over or rushing yards over.
Yeah, it's a solo mission, buddy.
Like, I don't know how you do it.
I'm all here for the TD scores. I don't like to stack stuff, but I completely understand where you're coming from. If it's a yards prop that's like 39.5 yards, but you like them to get a TD, like, chances are they're probably going to hit that over on yards for receiving and get the touchdown. Or I get it, but I like to try.
That would have drove you nuts too, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, we were talking the entire game, so yeah. I was pretty upset. The Eagles are my team, and it's crazy that it got to a point where I was just like, just give Swift the ball. Like, I don't care what the score is. I don't care if it's the 1 yard line and Hurts is 100 for 100 on punching those TDs in. Just turn around and give Swift the ball. But we ended up getting it. The gambling gods ended up having our back. So that's all I'm concerned about. Big winners, and my team won. So it's a win-win, but let's jump into the Thursday nighter here. Like I said, week 3, not a huge fan of the slate, and I think this is another tricky game. So we got Giants at San Francisco. The spread, the last I checked, dropped to -10. I don't know if that's still correct. It was -11 last night, but I guess I can kick us off here. Not a huge fan of this game. Obviously, San Fran's looking like they could be, 16-1, or they could be like anything could happen with them. They look like they might be the best team in football right now alongside the Cowboys. The Giants are coming off a massive comeback win where Daniel Jones went from 0 to hero in 1 half. So I think for me, this game, I'm going to be looking at what San Francisco's done and just kind of try and stay away from that point spread. I know everybody's really into right now San Francisco, but double-digit point spreads, especially in the NFL, really scare me unless it's like the Houston Texans are playing like San Francisco. I think it's a tough spot. So my first bet is actually going to be a player prop. I'm going to go with Brandon Ayuk anytime touchdown score plus 150. I think we're going to see this year a lot of 1 week it's going to be Debo and 1 week it's going to be Brandon Ayuk. I kind of flip-flop between Ayuk and Kittle because Kittle hasn't gotten the end zone yet. But I think Purdy's guy is Ayuk. As long as Ayuk's on the field, he's going to look to target him. He's their leading receiver so far in terms of catches, yards, and I think touchdowns as well. So for me, it's Brandon Ayuk plus 150. Keep going with the quarterback's main guy, regardless if he's listed as number one on the depth chart or not.
I like it. And it's a good way of avoiding a big spread. Like you mentioned, getting a player prop there. Noah, what do you have for us Thursday night?
For Thursday, I actually really, really like the Giants on the spread. I like the Giants plus 10. I think after the last game, Daniel Jones shown that he can actually be that guy. And I think the biggest thing, it's weird. I actually think Saquon being out oddly does help Daniel Jones play. I typically see him doing a little bit better. Now, their record doesn't say that they're better without Saquon Barkley. I think they're 9-13 all time without him when he's on the roster. But I feel like it showed last game after he went out. Daniel Jones kind of got this boost of confidence that kind of happens when a player, there's a lot of pressure on the Giants when Saquon's there. Obviously, Saquon's going through contract things, all these things. I think Daniel Jones gets a little more confidence without him there because there's not that extra pressure. No one expects the Giants to go in on Thursday and win. I would not take the money line because I definitely think, like to Jacob's point there, like San Fran is a wagon right now, and I definitely see them winning. But I see it as a late game cover for the Giants. I really like that. I'm definitely hammering Giants covering plus 10.
Everybody's favorite double-digit backdoor cover. I like that.
And primetime?
Yeah.
Primetime, big underdog. Jeez, this cough won't go away from me. For me, I'm looking at another player prop too, I guess. I like Daniel Jones over rushing yards. I feel like this guy is like the most unathletic looking athletic guy in the world, maybe. I talked about it last week as well, but we know how good the pass rush is for the Niners. They're gonna get after him, and shockingly enough, he actually knows how to leave the pocket. He picks his spots very wisely, when to get on the run, doesn't wait very long to do it. But last week in the Giants game, I also took a look at the Cardinals team total under. That didn't look very good. Now I'm going to switch things up and actually take a team total under on the Giants. I think Noah's pick can hit on the plus 10 with it remaining a low-scoring game. I think they're going to run the ball quite a bit, obviously including Daniel Jones. But the pressure that San Fran is able to put on their opponent's quarterback and what they're able to do on offense is crazy. I think it's second to none that they might be the most well-rounded team. Like on both sides of the ball, they bring something. And here's the deal. The Giants are starting their season off against the Cowboys, Cardinals, and Niners. So 2 of their 3 games are against like elite of the elite defenses. And then they got thrown in the Cardinals, which, like Jake said, until the second half, they didn't look very good. So I'm going to take the team total under for the Giants, but I'm going to take Daniel Jones rushing prop over.
Yeah, so I also have a second bet as well. I don't know if it bodes well for Noah or if it bodes well for you or not, but I'm going to take San Francisco team total over 27.5 points. Josh Dobbs running amok on you is never a good sign. That guy looked like prime Lamar Jackson last week. Like, looked unbelievable. Like, Tennessee didn't even want this guy. They were like, we'll take whatever draft pick we can get for him. And Cardinals were just looking for a spot starter that kind of had a similar game to Kyler Murray where they didn't have to change the playbook too much. And I think the Giants defense was pretty good last year. And I think, maybe like you said, going into episode 1 where the Giants just got a couple lucky breaks, things kind of went their way, and it made both the offense and the defense look a lot better than it actually is. And I think that San Francisco offense is so high-powered. You're going to be so worried about stopping McCaffrey that the play action is going to open up. You're going to have Kittle, you're going to have Ayuk, and you're going to have Debo, I think, having pretty big games. And I think the team total over 27.5 also lends into Brandon Ayuk scoring a touchdown. I think it kind of needs to be an open game for Ayuk. I think Ayuk is much more of an intermediate to deep threat, where Debo's kind of the underneath to intermediate, and same with Kittle. So for me, I think to go hand in hand with my Ayuk bet, I do need to take the team total over 27.5. And I think it's a good parlay piece too. If you want to parlay those together, I think again, they're bets that go hand in hand. And I think both of those bets are two of my favorite bets going into the slate this weekend.
I think it's going to be interesting now that it's the three of us trying to find a way for all of us to win in a game. If we're not head to head, like obviously we want ourselves to win, but finding a way between plus 10, Giants team total under. I don't know that those all three can hit, but my player prop, your player prop, the plus 10, we'll try and figure out a way that we're all successful. But there's going to be times there's three of us, we're going to be head to head. So we're going to do a handful of games each, and then the primetime games. Noah, do you want to start things off with a pick you like? Just anything you like from the slate on Sunday that's not a primetime game. What do you have for us?
Honestly, what I'm looking at right now is something that I really like. I was very high on this team preseason. Obviously, some stuff happened now that has caused them to not be so favored for the Super Bowl. But I really like the Jets' money line against the Patriots. It's plus 125 right now. And the reason I say that, people are going to, it's a divisional game. Bill Belichick usually seems to get the best of the Jets. But the Patriots might be one of the worst teams in football right now. Like, do you guys think that might be okay to say? Like, I think the Patriots might be one of the worst teams in football right now. Mac Jones, I don't really know. They brought in Zeke, but Zeke's not really Zeke anymore. I like that plus 125 right now. I think the Jets have a great team still. They're the same team from last year, but they brought in a few more pieces. Obviously they had Aaron. He's gone now for now, but I don't think Zach needs to have a great game. I think if they get Breece Hall involved again like they did in the first game and let him just kind of run, I think the Jets can have a great game. I like the Jets' money line against the Patriots, 2 o'clock.
I'll just say really quick, Noah had more balls than me. I was going to say plus 3 for the Jets is one of my picks, so I'll just kind of jump real quick on top of that. I like that too. I feel like Zach Wilson can't have any worse of a game than he did against the Cowboys, but we have to remember how elite the Cowboys defense really is. I mean, they're up there in the top, one of the best in the whole league. I had the Jets last week, hand up, plus 9.5. That one got destroyed. But I feel like even though Bill Belichick and the Patriots were able to contain the Dolphins a little bit and really not allow much from the outside, the Jets just have more offensive weapons. And I feel like they'll be able to keep things close and ultimately win. And I think you go from Zach Wilson's first game of the season. I know he played a lot last year, but from the Cowboys against the Patriots, although the Patriots have a good defense, realistically, they're just not throwing as much at you offensively, so it doesn't really cause as much pressure. I feel like the play calling will be a little more conservative for Zach Wilson. And I couldn't believe the Breece Hall. Like, he's already pissed, saying he had the ball 4 times. But I'm with Noah, so that's one of my picks.
We're going to need a lone wolf button.
You have the Pats?
I'm on the Pats, baby.
Oh,
minus
shit.
2.5.
Oh,
minus
shit.
2.5.
You're taking the
It
points
starts.
too.
It starts.
I'm taking minus 2.5.
Okay.
We might have to stream this. We might have to stream this game.
I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of against everything you guys are saying, which is weird because normally, we could be on opposite sides of the pick, but still, like, I can see where you guys are coming from and, kind of vice versa where I'm coming from. But I think the Jets offense is terrible.
No arguments here.
Without Aaron Rodgers, like, minus the Garrett Wilson house call, like, they did nothing. And I know the Cowboys defense is really, really good, but the Patriots D-line is really, really good too. Like, Matthew Judon, I think, is one of the most underrated pass rushers in the NFL. The Jets offensive line is banged up a little. They haven't protected Zach Wilson so far. Zach doesn't look like he has the confidence right now to step up in the pocket and escape. Like, we know he has legs, but we haven't seen him, take off anywhere. So for me, I think Bill's going to be able to scheme against a QB that's going to be lacking confidence, coming off a game where they got absolutely destroyed on the offensive line front, like the line of scrimmage they got dominated on. And then you have an unhappy locker room right now. Like, do you try and feed Breece Hall to make him happy? And then what does Delvin Cook think if he only ends up getting, 4 to 8 touches. Like, to me, just everything kind of bodes well for the Patriots. And I know the Jets defense is like top 5 in the league, but you don't really need to put up points against this Jets team without Aaron Rodgers to win games. Like, you could feasibly score 17 to 21 points and still potentially comfortably beat the Jets. Like, the Jets to me are a team that each week is going to put up 10 to 20 points. If they go over 20 points, it's an anomaly. And for me, I'm going to take Bill at home, coming off an 0-2 start. Mac Jones is under a lot of pressure. I've been hating on him quite a bit. I think he's looked all right. But for me, it's just kind of the simple play here, whereas you don't read too much into it. You just take the Pats -2.5, and you just let Bill kind of work his magic. And too, I think Bill's better than anybody at controlling the clock. We're at the Jets. Doesn't make a difference to me.
Just
doesn't really make a difference. Appreciate you showing me that. But do you know what it is? I bet on soccer a lot.
I know what it's the first.
So
team,
the first team's always home in soccer.
Yeah,
and I was betting Champions League today, so I was kind of whatever.
For us with the Wanderers games, that used to throw me off with Mayflower because I would check online and it would say they were first.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's an away game.
But they were home. But yeah, I think the Patriots need a win here, and there's a saying like something like a hungry dog always runs faster or something like that. And I think the Patriots had expectations of being competitive this year. So I think I just got to roll with the Pats and just hope Bill's able to pull some magic out one last time for me.
I think one final comment on this game is I think it's going to come down to like special teams. Like, I think this game actually might be one of the, like, I think it's going to be very low scoring. Like, if I don't know what the under is on the game.
Yeah, I think it was 37. Yeah, 37 and a half.
That's pretty low.
You talk about special teams though. They blocked a punt or a field goal
and then almost blocked the second.
Didn't even get a field goal.
No, for sure.
They didn't even score up. That's why I'm hating on the Patriots. Like, I feel like the Jets, like, how much do you think the Jets score? How many do you think the Jets score?
I don't think they score over 17 points.
Or 17. Honestly, I think it's kind of a garbage game.
It is.
I would put it this way. I hate to throw out this value word. Everyone uses it. If either team was +3, that's who I'd be on. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're going to take the points.
I'm taking a game that I think that either team could really win, and I'm taking the +3 and creating an argument for the Jets is honestly what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I said, I'm not a huge fan of the slate this week. There's a lot of big spreads. There's a lot of close games. This is just a game to me where it's just I identified a team that needs a win, and I just kind of like where the Patriots kind of locker room and identity is at versus the Jets, where they still don't know what they have with Zach Wilson.
And they have an excuse versus the
and they have an excuse, and there's just a lot of turmoil. But
what else do you have for us?
All right, we're going to move into our second game here. For me, until this bet doesn't cash, I'm just going to bet it every single week.
Let's go.
I'm taking the Chargers Vikings over 54.5. Both of these defenses are absolutely garbage. These are two teams where, like, their offense is so much better than their defense. It's almost a sin. Like, their defenses cannot get a stop for the life of them. I think the Chargers offense just kind of looks at their defense when they're on the field and like, we're going to need to score 40 points to win any game. And to me, the Vikings, same thing. Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, even Jordan Addison now is looking like an absolute stud. They're looking at their defense being like, God damn, could we get a stop? Like, even just one crucial stop that we need. And neither of those defenses have got it. Both offenses are high powered. I think it's a game where you might see this total actually trend upwards as it gets closer to game time, just because I think everybody's going to be in the same mindset as me, is you just kind of have to bet this until it doesn't hit, and it doesn't hit consecutive weeks. Other than that, like, I don't really have any analysis besides like both their defenses are garbage and both their offenses are really good.
No, I was excited when you said I'm going to bet this until it loses. I love when people say that because it's true. Like, sometimes people get so caught up in trying to like reinvent the wheel every week, right? That they don't want to just bet at the same thing or bet against the same thing. So I like it. It sucks because both those, I mean, you see it a lot, really. I mean, teams that are just so talented offensively that don't have a good defense, or sometimes it can be the other way around.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I like that pick.
And I think it's more so, not to cut you off, I think it's more so with the Vikings than the Chargers, right? Like, I think the Vikings defense is absolutely garbage. Like, if they play any sort of offense, just take the over.
I'd argue that the Vikings, though, like, they kind of kill themselves by always running like really like high-end plays. Like, they need to control like, if they had longer drives, their defense wouldn't be on the field as much.
Isn't it funny though that they let Delvin Cook go and that's what he does, and Madison just isn't that.
Right.
And now they're forced into throwing the ball because Madison just looks like an RB2, which he was, and they kind of thrusted him into this role, and he's just not that guy.
He's almost caught the ball more than he's rushed it.
Yeah.
It seems like.
Yeah. Honestly, I love it. I love that pick. I'm super
Squad
on
ride.
that. Like, yeah, no, you hit it on the head, right? Both of these teams' defenses are just terrible. And we saw it last week. We saw it over the weekend with the Chargers playing the Titans. I was actually on the Titans that weekend because it's like that's the type of game Vrabel's going to be able to scheme against, get the dogs out and fucking just be able to throw them off, right? Like that's the biggest thing for them, and I love it. 54 is low, I think, for them. I think it's going to be a lot of points. So yeah, I'm totally on it.
Are you? That's the pick for you too as well. Or?
I honestly, I didn't think about it going in. I didn't look at the points total, but I'm 100% on it. I will be betting that this weekend for sure, and I'm actually probably going to take it early because I think Jake's also hit it on the head. I think it's going to go up towards game day.
Yeah, I think like we all like, everybody always jokes about like not being on the same side of the public, like don't be on a popular pick, but like sometimes the popular picks are popular for a reason and they win.
Well, it's just like last night, right? Like last night, the public money was like 80% on the Saints, I think. And I mean, it sometimes it just, you can't listen to that. Like you can't fade the public.
Sometimes the
all
public
time.
doesn't know what they're talking
Yeah.
about. All right, bud.
There's a reason why primetime dogs hit though.
Lead us off with your first one here. I'm intrigued.
Well, I look at the Commanders, and they're a team that I bet on or I had as my survivor pick in week 1. They played the Cardinals. Week 2, they win outright against the Broncos. Now they're playing a Bills team. They're 6.5-point dogs. Some people might think, yeah, maybe it's too many points, but the Bills looked frustrated last week. They looked pissed. They looked motivated. They included all their receivers, I found. Josh Allen had a great day. I feel like it's another opportunity for the Bills to build their confidence and blow out a team that can't trade points with them. I think that I regret not pulling trigger. I mentioned on the podcast last week, I think it was a teaser with the Panthers and Commanders. That's kind of all I really talked about with that game. But the Commanders are going to be a team that are going to hang around against other bad teams. I feel like when they play a great team like the Bills, I called them great, they're not going to be able to hang around. And the second they're down like 10 points, they're going to start running plays they're not good at running, that don't work well for them, and they're not going to be able to catch up. So the Bills' defense, I don't think is all that, but once they get a lead on the Commanders and the Commanders are forced to throw the ball a ton, I don't think it'll work out very well. So make sure to get the 6 in the hook before it goes to 7. First pick I'm locking in as far as the non-primetime games, Bills minus the 6.5.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. That's a game I kind of looked at, and I was like, oh, the Bills should cover. And then you never know what you're going to... It seems like you're not going to know what you're going to get out of the Bills or the Bengals this year. Like, they're either going to be really, really good some weeks or they're going to be really, really bad other weeks. So, like, I'm with you where, like, the Bills have way more talent. But equally, like, the Commanders' defense is pretty good. And we've seen so far through 2 weeks, like, Josh Allen can get frustrated. He can make bad plays. And defenses can capitalize on that. But if I was going to put my money anywhere, I think I'd be with you in the minus 6.5.
I just think, like, they were plus 3.5 or 4.5 against 3.5 against the Broncos, and I think the Bills are a lot better than the Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos are going to be one of the most disappointing teams this year by a mile.
Again.
Yeah. So
yeah, I don't really have anything to add for that game. I don't know if that was a game of yours, if you have any insight into what you're thinking on Andrew's pick. But
honestly, when I think I thought similar to you. When I first saw it, I didn't want to touch it personally. Like, I think if I were to touch it, I think it would be minus 6.5 for Buffalo. But Washington, to me, this year feels like one of those teams that I don't know what I'm going to get week to week.
Yeah, they could be. I think like they might be like kind of like the Giants, where they're just kind of like a spread killer this year, where like every game they seem to be just kind of in and around it when they realistically shouldn't be.
Yeah, like, I don't know what I'm getting out of Sam Howell yet. Like, I haven't seen enough of him to know, like, is he consistent, or is he going to have 1 week where it's like, okay, yeah, this guy's a solidified starter, they're going to want to pay him, Or is he just the fill-in until they get a new draft pick or something comes their
Sanders.
way?
I think they're gonna cover point spreads and hang around in games against mid-tier teams. But if this game was being played in week 13, I don't think the spread's -6.5.
Yeah, it's probably going to be.
You know what I'm saying?
It might be a little bit more, honestly. I think might be like 8.5.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I think that like this is also people are gonna remember what they saw lately. I honestly think the Commanders could be a popular dog, like a public dog, because of what they've seen the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, so. I'm in. All right, keep it moving here. We're trying to keep this episode short for you guys. I know last week me and Andrew ran like an hour and 10 minutes, so we're gonna try and keep this one under an hour. So Noah, let's go ahead with your second pick there.
Okay, my second pick, I'm on the Titans again this week. I mean, I wasn't on the show for the last week, but I'm on the Titans again. I like them +3 against the Browns. Reason why is because last year I wasn't so high on the Titans, but they ended up being that team that every week they're in the game. They're right there. And I think I haven't seen enough out of Deshaun Watson and the Browns still. I haven't seen what they can prove. Like we saw last night, on the Monday night game against Pittsburgh, a lot of turnovers, like defense won that game for Pittsburgh. I don't think Tennessee's defense is as good as Pittsburgh's, but I think their offense is a little better. I think they're going to keep it close. If I'm trending like Browns money line type thing, but I just like Tennessee with the points. +3 I think is a solid value for that. They're going to keep it close the entire way like Tennessee always seems to do the past couple years. They're a team that just seems to win their division off of just being a scrappy, win the last second football games. Like I think Vrabel is a great coach and can keep his boys in it. DeAndre Hopkins going to be in the third week of the offense. We can see sort of what he can start to do maybe if Tannehill kind of has that kind of connection with him and finally has kind of a receiver back since that whole A.J. Brown and when Julio didn't work out. So I like the Titans +3 just strictly on the fact that I don't know what I'm getting out of Cleveland. I really don't. And Cleveland had that big first week win, but they always seem to, for some reason, beat up on the Bengals. And that's just one of those weird kind of rivalry matchups.
And week one without Chubb is going to suck.
That's I think too, man, to kind of piggyback off your game, I didn't have a pick in this, but I think the Titans always have a sneaky defense that people kind of just like overlook. They're not like too flashy. They don't force like too many turnovers, but they're always seem to be in low scoring games. Like their defense has that like bend but don't break mentality where, yeah, you can drive into our half, you can get to the 40 and the 30, but we're going to stop you there and you're going to have to settle for 3. And I'm with you. I don't like, I have Deshaun Watson in fantasy football. Through 2 weeks, I've been like, God, like I thought I was getting so much more than this. And
so did everybody else.
Yeah, and it's just weird because like Amari Cooper's, 1,000 to 1,200 yard receiver. I think Elijah Moore going into the season, I was like, okay, this is a guy that could be like 800 to 1,000 yards. And then you have David Njoku, Nick Chubb. Like they had all of the pieces on offense to look good. And like Donovan Peoples-Jones was like a really good receiver for them last year. Like he's been nowhere to be found so far this year. So I'm kind of with you. If you're going to take this game, what have you done for me lately? And Cleveland last night looked really suspect. They looked like a team that kind of, once they lost Chubb, they lost their identity. And I'm a firm believer in your coach. Ultimately, I think in the NFL, I think more than anything, your coach is an ultimate decider. And I'm not huge on Kevin Stefanski. Like, I don't think he's a guy that's going to draw up a play or scheme something up for you guys where, like, that's going to be the difference maker in the football game. And I think you're going to see that repeatedly over the course of this year where the Browns are playing teams that they should beat, and they end up being in really, really tight games because Stefanski's not that difference maker on the sideline for them.
Yeah, my quick 2 cents is I don't like to overreact to injuries ever, but I think if there's ever a team to overreact to an injury with, it's them.
Yeah, and it sucks.
100%.
That sucks for Chubb too, man. Like we won't dive too into it. Like obviously we're not like, TSN or Good Morning Football and we're going to dive into an injury, but that just sucks for a guy that battled an injury like that 2 years previous and now his career is legitimately at risk. Like you can't have your knee blow up twice like that and you're going to come back the same player, but hopefully everything ends up well for him and we see him back next year and he can avoid injuries because Chubb is in my opinion, a top 2 running back in the NFL. There's not another guy I think you could be like, I would definitely take him over Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb's either 1A or 1B across running backs in the NFL. So hopefully my guy gets better. But
there was a stat that I saw, like, I can't remember exactly what the number was, but it was like when the Cleveland Browns quarterbacks threw under like had under like 20 completions or something like that, or like under 30 attempts, they won games. Like when they weren't throwing the ball, they won games.
Yeah.
And now they're going to have to.
Yeah, it just comes down to what Ford's going to look like, and if, maybe they go back and get Kareem Hunt, but I think, the way things ended, he's probably not going to want to go back there. But I guess we'll dive into my pick here just to keep things moving. This is a pick that kind of trends with my train of thought on the team they're playing against. I'm going to take the Lions -3 over the Falcons. I think the Falcons are possibly the luckiest team in the NFL right now. I think
You hate the Falcons.
I think their roster's garbage. Like, I think their defense is definitely much improved, and it looks pretty good, but, like, they're basically banking on Desmond Ridder to not make mistakes and Bijan Robinson just be the guy, which that can take you pretty far. But I think against the Lions team whose defense is actually a little underrated. I think, after week 1, me and you were talking about, like, maybe, like, the Lions defense. It was more the Chiefs' mistakes than it was the Lions' defense. But after watching the game last week, I think the Lions' defense could be pretty for real. I think Desmond Ridder is going to be facing pressure the entire game. And the Lions are going to be one of those teams this year where, like, regardless if they have Jahmyr Gibbs or they have David Montgomery in the game, they're going to be a throw-first offense. They're going to want Goff pushing the ball down the field. They're going to want to be targeting Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're also going to be wanting to targeting Josh Reynolds. And Sam Laporta, I think, who a lot of guys kind of forgot about. Everybody was really big on Dalton Kincaid coming into this season, that he was going to be the best rookie tight end. But I think Laporta's really integrated well into this offense. And I'm pretty sure the Lions are at home. That just kind of lends into, I think they've played a lot better at home than they have on the road over the last 2 years.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I think just for me, I think it's going to be a letdown spot where the Falcons' luck kind of finally runs out, and the Lions kind of need this game to kind of keep trending towards that division title that I think they're really, like, Dan Campbell's, like, I think really wants that this year. He wants to be in the playoffs, but I also think he wants that division because the division I don't think will ever be as clear-cut again as it is this year for the Lions to win.
Go ahead, Noah.
I mean, like, I can't argue with that. I agree with a lot of what you said about the Falcons. I'm just still upset that the Packers lost to them over the weekend. That game was ridiculous. Like, Bijan Robinson is a guy for sure, but I don't believe in anything about Desmond Ridder. Like, I don't think he's that good at all. Like, their offense is suspect. They can't figure out a way to get Kyle Pitts involved, which is super aggravating just as a football fan because you see that he has all the intangibles to be a guy. But I mean, I like Detroit winning the game. I don't know if it's like my lock or anything like that, but I think you make a lot of valid points. I would agree with a lot of what you say.
This is my third pick of like my regular picks, I guess. I like the over in that game, so I don't care who wins. I'll root for Jake. I think that Desmond Ridder is not very good, just like you guys do, but I feel like this isn't the week that he gets exposed. Geno Smith, despite it was overtime, 328 passing yards against the Lions last week.
But Geno's a guy.
They're good. The Lions are good against the rush. Statistically, they haven't been good recently against the pass. They give up a lot of passes through the air, a lot of big plays through the air.
Geno's a guy. I don't care what you say.
He's
Geno's
a game
guy.
manager, man.
Geno's a guy.
He didn't even
Geno's
have that
got
many
a second wind. He's got a second wind.
You know
Geno's
why he's the guy, though? Because he doesn't have an ego. That's why he's the guy.
He's the guy. He's the guy.
He doesn't force plays or anything like that. But I feel like the Lions give up a lot of stuff. And, I mean, without even me having to repeat myself too much, Jake mentioned how many different options the Lions have offensively. And I feel like that's going to really throw things off to the Falcons because, let's be honest, even as a Packers fan, I don't think that we have as much to offer, or the Packers had as many different options really as they're going to see against the Lions.
Yeah, and I think to lend into your point, I think the over can definitely hit, but you're going to need a game out of Ridder. Like, you're gonna need him to throw the ball.
You don't respect the Packers defense like I do, but I think the Packers have a good defense.
I would say it's
You know what I mean?
I would say it's like 12 to 15 in the league. Like, I don't think it's a top 10 defense by any stretch.
Points.
Yeah, that game definitely had sub 50 points. But to me, I guess I'm going to pose you a question: is for the over to hit in this game? Do you not think you're going to need a game out of Ritter? Because realistically,
no, I do.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm telling you that I don't think the Lions are the team to expose him.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. I just hate the Falcons, and like we don't need to mention names.
I hope the Lions win for you. I'm not cheering against you.
It's not even that. It's I won't mention our guy's name. He's just so high on the Falcons that it just drives me fucking insane. Like, I just don't like the Falcons anymore. And just now that the fact that like someone's football mind that I respect likes the Falcons, it just makes me hate them that much more. So just anything to do with the Falcons, just not. You know
what I will say though is that I don't think their defense is as good as people think they are.
I think Jesse Bates the third was a really good pickup. I think he's a really good safety, but like to me, like their pass rush is their linebackers are and then they got AJ Terrell who's a good cornerback, but I think they've gotten nice matchups to start the year. Like Jordan Love, second game of the year, like. What do you really expect to get out of him? He's not going to go out there and dash you for 300 yards. Right? Yeah, so I'm with you. I guess that could definitely hit. But my third pick was already discussed, I think, by Noah. I had the Pats -2.5. I think you said that your third pick was just the Lions.
Yeah, so I have Bills -6.5, Jets +3, and Lions Falcons over.
So I think we're just still one more for you for 3.
My last one, I've been going back and forth, and I know this kind of goes against what I was saying with my first pick with taking the spread with the Giants game, but I really like the Jags -9.5 against Houston.
Duval.
The reason why, and I know it's a divisional game, it's close. They typically take it close, but Jacksonville is one of those teams that before the year everyone was very high on, like very high. Like Trevor Lawrence, third year now, like he's the guy now for sure. They got more weapons. They got Calvin Ridley. They got all the weapons. ETN's getting better. I think it's their time to beat up on a bad team. Like they played it well against KC the first week. They've had close game, or was that just over the weekend? Close game against KC. Like I think they're a very good team, and I think they have to come out and beat up this Houston team to prove themselves. I think Trevor Lawrence knows that he has to prove something. I think everyone on that team is talking like, we can't just win this game. We got to beat this team up. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where I'm leaning towards. It's a big spread. If it gets to 10, that's what scares me. Taking any game at 10 points is really hard in the NFL. So I like it at -9.5. If it goes to -10, that'll be a little iffy, but it might stay there. So I like the -9.5.
I think a lot of teams this year are going to use the Texans as kind of like a confidence boost. Like, sometimes that works well for teams, and other times it's not. Maybe you come in, you're like, oh, we're going to beat up on these guys, and the game's a lot closer, you lose. But I'm with you. It's a divisional game. Texans just got shit pumped by the Colts without Anthony Richardson. Well, they had Anthony for most of the game, but he obviously went down hurt, and they were still able to put up points with Gardner Minshew. Trevor Lawrence, dark horse for MVP, in my opinion. Calvin Ridley, looking really good. So I'm with you. I think if you're going to take a game with that size of a spread that's trending towards double digits, you want to take a game that's maybe, arguably the worst team in the NFL playing a team that's supposed to be emerging in the NFL.
Yeah, and I guess a way to frame it too, if you think about it, like the Thursday night game is the Giants versus the Niners, and we all kind of agree the Niners are one of the best looking teams in the NFL right now. That's a 10-point spread. How much of a difference between a gap is Houston and Jacksonville versus the Giants and the Niners? If you think about it that way, right? Like, I think the Giants are a better team than Houston, but Niners are one of the best teams in the league. But I also think Houston's one of the worst teams in the league, and Jacksonville is in the upper more echelon of teams. So like that gap right there is kind of similar. And like, yeah, I like the Giants on that spread, but that's because it's +10. But if it's 9.5, I do like Jacksonville, and I think they have a lot to prove this weekend.
I think for me, just my quick 2 cents on that one is that scheduling wise, I would prefer the fact that they just played a really tough team and they couldn't, like, Trevor Lawrence couldn't throw. Jacksonville didn't look very good. Tough opponent. I love when a team plays a crappy opponent the week after they played one of the Super Bowl champs. Mm-hmm. That's the best, because you're pissed off, you're motivated, and you look at your next week and you're like, oh, you're licking your lips, right? It's way different, I think, than if they would have beat the Chiefs. Like, if I was you, like, personally, I'm more motivated to take the Jags now that they lost versus if they upset the Chiefs. But just my quick 2 cents.
I love it. Let's jump into the Sunday nighter here. I'll keep this really brief. I don't really have too much reasoning behind this besides what I just saw. I'm actually going to take the Steelers money line at plus 105. I think the Steelers defense maybe kind of caught their wave. TJ Watt looked unreal. Highsmith looked unreal. Kenny Pickett maybe starting to get it together. George Pickens finally finds the end zone. I think Mike Tomlin's going to use that divisional game against the Browns as kind of a stepping stone to be like, hey, let's go into Las Vegas. Let's beat up on a team that realistically isn't that good. Josh Jacobs hasn't had it going. Jimmy G's a really, really, really average quarterback, in my opinion. He's a game manager. Like, he needs a defense and he needs weapons around him. And right now, the only weapon he has is Devontae Adams. And I think besides Max Crosby, that Raiders defense isn't that good. And I think this is a spot where Pittsburgh can go into Las Vegas and squeak out a victory. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I think, again, it's going to be a game that the Steelers ride their defense into putting their offense into good positions, short fields, turnovers, and Kenny Pickett just kind of needs to capitalize on the few chances he has and just not turn the ball over, basically, and maybe try and get Najee going a little bit more. Najee looks like he might be a bust, but I don't want to say that now just because he's still so young and he's got so much time. And the Steelers' offensive line is nothing to write home about, but I think this is just kind of one of those game scripts for me where Steelers are coming off a high, Vegas isn't really that great, and it's a team that can go into another team stadium and squeak out a victory.
I'm on the complete opposite.
Yeah?
I just like... Pretty much, the way you ended that, saying they're coming off a high, is one of the reasons why I don't like them, because
letdown spot.
The Steelers won the game, and they had an interception, a pick six, and a fumble.
Defense got 14 points.
Exactly.
Offense 12.
Like the defense outscored the offense, which is a problem. And realistically, you mentioned George Pickens. I feel like if anyone likes the Steelers, just load up on his props. What's his name? Freiermuth. He's not getting the ball. Ever since with Deontay Johnson being out, I didn't think it'd be as much of a problem as it is. But it seems like the Steelers are going to live by George Pickens. If he's playing well, the team's going to play well. But the Raiders, it's a home game for them, but they are coming from the East Coast. That game was in Buffalo last week again for them. But you've got a team that's coming off I think a wrong side win. Like if you pick the Steelers, congratulations, but they probably shouldn't have won on Sunday night.
But should the Browns have
Monday
won?
Night.
Like, neither team really deserved to win.
It really depends
the Browns
on
had 4 turnovers.
how much you put into defense.
Yeah, Browns had 4 turnovers.
Look, if you had the Steelers, you won a ticket, and no one's going to ask you if you deserve to win it. I think that Steelers. Most people would say if you were a Steelers bettor, you shouldn't be flexing. No one should be walking around town today telling everybody they bet the Steelers yesterday.
I think I might be.
I bet.
I had the Steelers in a teaser. I'm just saying, realistically, you've got one team that probably shouldn't have won their game that the scoreboard says they did versus a team coming off a game against the Bills.
Yeah.
That's all I'm looking at. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but it's like a team riding a high versus a team that just got smacked. Let's not forget, the Bills were pissed after week 1. Everybody loved the Bills week 2. I saw so many people on Josh Allen passing yards. I didn't bet it because I was like, oh, it just seems like the obvious play. The guy went off on the Raiders. So we'll see what happens. But
I'll let Noah make his pick, and then I'm going to have a question for you.
Well, it's super
the dreaded Jake question if I disagree.
This is
No, just a question. I just want to know.
This is so funny because I am actually dead in the middle between both of you, and I actually was going in thinking Pittsburgh on the spread. And it's only plus 2.5. And the reason is basically both of you alluded to it. Neither of these teams are really I don't know what to think about either of these teams, to be quite frank. Like, I have no clue. The Raiders aren't anything because Jimmy G is the definition of a game manager. Like, he's like replaced Andy Dalton as the QB average meter. Like, are you better or worse than Jimmy G? So I have no clue. Steelers offense is abysmal pretty much all the time. Like, Matt Canada, they were chanting for him to get fired after last game because that offense is just it's terrible, but their defense is so good. So really, I'm on a really tight, crappy Sunday night game. I think I like the Pittsburgh on the points at +2.5. I think Pittsburgh's going to be one of those big covering teams this year because TJ Watt is a guy. They got a lot of great defensive players. That D-line is great, but that offense just never really seems to get it going. But the defense seems to score almost every game at this point, which they have both. I mean, only 2 games, but they've scored both games on defense. So I think they'll keep it close. It's going to be scrappy, and by all accounts, it's not going to be a barn burner. It's going to be a slow, boring Pittsburgh game that's going to come down to the wire, and +2.5 will probably happen because one team is probably going to win oddly by 1 or 2 points.
All right, let me get my question in before you get going. And this you can answer this however you want. This is just me asking a question.
All right.
So just from what you've seen is one thing, but just going into the game we'll say this past Monday night.
Which game?
The Browns Steelers.
Okay, yeah.
Would you say the Browns offense on paper and you can even say from what you've seen is better than Las Vegas's? Is better than the Raiders? And almost at every position minus Amari Cooper versus Devontae Adams.
I wouldn't the offense is better or as a team?
As a team, I think the Browns defense blows the Raiders defense out of the water. So we'll just say just the offense.
I think you don't like the Raiders.
It's not that I don't like the Raiders. It's just a genuine question, right? Because I understand where you're coming from. Where like in sports, I think you're the best person that I know out of our friends that gamble. That you're really good at keying in on letdown spots. But like for me, like a letdown spot, like there needs to be like.
So wait, the question was whose offense is better, Cleveland's or Raiders? I think that if we look at the end of the year, I honestly think points for, we'll never know because of Chubb now. I think the Raiders could have won that battle. Really.
Yes.
So here's the way I look at it, and I think that you might agree with me on this. Even though we were head-to-head in week 1. The Raiders played the Broncos in week 1, right? So they go from the Broncos that even with the almighty Sean Payton and Russell Wilson cooking, not that good. Like, no matter, we both knew that game was going to be close. We were opposite on that. And then the next week, you get a pissed off Bills team. So I don't think that they've played a mid team yet. They've played an unbelievable team in the Bills that were pissed off. And whatever the hell anyone wants to call the Broncos, in my opinion.
Okay. We're obviously going to agree to disagree.
But on that, you don't agree? Like, I think anybody would agree the fact that they played 2 different type of teams. They played a really good team and like a not that good team, right?
I think they've definitely played, I think you're right. I think they've played one really good team and they've played one really bad team, but against both teams, they didn't look good. Like, I think even against the Broncos. Where do the Steelers fall? Let
me ask you this. Where do the Steelers fall in between the Broncos and the Bills? That's my question.
I think definitely closer towar's the Broncos, obviously.
Yeah,
I think that's
like
a pretty
in the middle, or are they like right next to the Broncos?
I would say they're probably a couple spots above the Broncos. But for me, it's like this is one of those games where like just knowing Mike Tomlin and knowing the Steelers, the guy always finishes above 500. And if they're going to finish above 500 this year, this is a game that they need to have. They can't lose games like this if they want to be in it for the division. And I got to trust what history shows me. And this is a game where like Mike Tomlin finds a way to steal it. But again, we're going to agree.
You're coming over Sunday night.
Yeah, it just looks like we're going to agree to disagree, but we'll move on. Surprisingly, this is one of the worst games of the week, and that's the most time we've spent on a panel.
I was going to say this game was going to suck regardless.
Oh, it's going to be the worst.
What do we got next? What these two are the first Monday game. All
right, first Monday game. I'll lead us off since this is my team. Eagles versus Bucks. I don't really love this pick, to be honest, but I'm going to go Eagles -5. I think the Bucs have definitely been the surprise of the NFL so far this year. I think Baker Mayfield might have found an offense that oddly suits him. A lot of intermediate short passes that kind of free up the long pass. You have two guys in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin that are really good. Rashad White, the jury's still out on him. Is he going to be a player? Is he not going to be a player? And then people forget how good the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is. So for me, I think they've been my surprise of the NFL. And oddly enough, I don't know if it's maybe me being a harsh critic, but I think my letdown so far of the NFL season has been Jalen Hurts. I think Hurts has been kind of a game manager. He hasn't really been too much of a difference maker. I know he had that long pass to Devonta Smith, but I think, skinny Batman is the reason that play developed. Like, he's just an unbelievable route runner. He's an unbelievable wide receiver. And in my opinion, and I don't think this is an overreaction, I've been saying it since the start of the season, I think he's better than A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown just has the physique and he has the yards after the catch. The yards after the catch are what get people going. And I think it's the same thing with Debo, like Debo and Ayuk. I think Ayuk might be the better receiver, but Debo has that ability to take things to the house with the yards after the catch. So he catches people's more eye better. But I think for me, just to get to the game, I think this is going to be a game where the Eagles offense has a point to prove. Jalen Hurts can't keep looking like this if we're going to try to go back to the Super Bowl. The defense has been pretty good, but not that great. And I think just overall, this is kind of a statement game for us where you need to put somebody back in their place to be like, hey, no, listen, the NFC's ours. Like, there's two teams that we're battling with, and it's not you. So for me, I like the Eagles -5. I don't love it, but I think if there was a game where we need to turn stuff around and prove a point, this is going to be it.
What do you have, Noah?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I don't care. Like, yes, Baker has looked good. They have been a surprise, but I think to all of Jake's points, I think this is Philly's. Let's get back on track and beat up this team that shouldn't be even close to our skill level. Like, they still have one of the best D-lines, arguably ever. Like, of a collection of guys, they have just a bunch of dudes everywhere. 5 seems low. I know Jalen Hurts has seemed like a letdown, but this is the type of game that they can get back on track and get back in form, and I think this is their get-back game because I don't think they should be happy with their first 2 games, like, at all. Like, they haven't looked like – because going into the year, they were arguably one of the favorites. Like, they just came off the Super Bowl. They looked really good. They lost to Kansas City, like an absolute like wagon dynasty, arguably in the making. I think Philly should beat up on Tampa, so I like -5. I do.
Yeah, I like it too, and that's why I'm scared because I feel like everybody should like the Eagles. Like, even if you're buying into the trends and the latest team that's doing well, I just don't get how anybody would love the Bucs. They're at home, they've been okay, but to me, this is their first defense that's going to cause them problems. That's my main reason. The first Vikings and Bears, and I'm not saying the Bears have a dog shit defense, but Justin Fields in that offense isn't putting any pressure on the offense of the Bucs. So, like, they felt pretty comfortable. I don't know. I'm overthinking it because I'm worried that, like, why isn't this, like, 7 in the hook? Like, why is this 5? But maybe it's because of the defense of the Bucs.
Could see the line move, too. This could just be an early line. And
give me the Eagles.
Yeah, I like it. I'm in on the Eagles.
What do you guys think about – actually, I had this written down. So I think the first half might be a good play. Just because, like I said, they haven't seen a team like the Eagles yet. I know
Eagles have started hot too in the first half. Yeah. It's usually been the second half where it's been kind of a letdown spot where the offense is clicking to start the game, and then all of a sudden the second half you're like, what the hell happened? Or like in the game against the Patriots, like we get the pick 6, then we have the fumble on like the kickoff to the Patriots, and then all of a sudden we're up 16-0.
Yeah.
So I definitely like that pick, and I think with the defense as strong as the Eagles, it could be a slow start for Baker. But just before we move on, I just want to ask, did you guys see the clip of Baker in week 1 when he trucked that dude on the sideline?
Yeah.
Dude,
get your weight up, right?
Get your weight up, little boy. That's going to be my saying for the rest of the NFL season. I don't even care how the Bucs finish. I hope they get slaughtered this week, but every other week after this, I'm probably going to be cheering. Like, that just shows me that, like, Baker's not ready to give up on himself.
No.
And he still is going to walk that walk and try and talk that talk. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I love plays like that when guys are still into it and they really want to just prove a point that they belong.
I love Baker's mentality just because, like, he came from that Cleveland shit show, to be quite frank, and then, you know, he moves to Los Angeles, you know, all these things. I like where he's trending, but to go to the next game, this is almost piggybacking off what Andrew said. This scares the hell out of me, the spread with the Bengals and Rams. Bengals just seem like the easy pick at -2. I like against the Rams team that has been surprisingly good, but they still won't have Cup. Like, he still won't be there. The Bengals have started off pretty poorly. Like, arguably within that Jalen Hurts conversation is Joe Burrow's performance. But I just can't see how the Bengals don't come out and beat on this LA team. Like, -2 seems like a very low spread. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's something that I don't know.
Well, they're worried about Joe Burrow if he is going to play or not.
Okay.
But and especially in this matchup, if it's worth throwing him out there, that's the only thing.
Yeah, I mean that is the thing. But honestly, even if Joe wasn't there, it almost seems like -2 for a team that has so many weapons that you could have a fill-in. Like, if he doesn't play, then I understand why the spread is only -2, but I really like the Bengals -2. And until they really say about Joe Burrow, like, even then,
I agree with you.
I still might take the -2 on this.
Yeah.
If he doesn't play, I think the line moves. I think the Rams become the favorite. That's just, or it becomes a pick 'em. I don't think if Joe doesn't play that they're gonna stay at -2. I think they're just operating on the assumption that, like, maybe he's not playing. So if you get an early bet in, Vegas can maybe capitalize on you and the line moving the other way.
You don't think this is a precautionary line?
No, I do. That's what I do
Oh.
think it is. And, like, if he does, I think he's going to play, but Vegas is operating on the assumption that if he doesn't play, you caught guys like me, you would maybe know it on a line that isn't a true line if Joe's not playing. But I'm with you. I think -2. I saw this, and I know we usually run through our best bet at the end of the episode. We just pick, but since we're already here, this is my best bet of the week. Bengals -2. I think this is notoriously the turnaround spot for the Bengals the last 2 years. It's week 3. Even if they lose, their offense finally gets their act together. I think Jamar Chase has been subpar, Joe Burrow's been subpar, Joe Mixon has been subpar, and T. Higgins has been subpar. That's 5 guys on an offense that arguably is a top, 2 to 5 offense in the league. Underperforming. It can't happen every single week. I know the offensive line's been absolutely garbage for them. Joe's taken hit after hit after hit. But again, this is a hungry dog always runs faster. Like, they need a win this week. They can't start the season 0-3. And it's a perfect spot at home against a banged up Rams team who on offense really only have 2 guys, and they're both rookies. Williams, and I always forget the other guy's name. Do you remember his name? What's the wide receiver's name? The rookie guy on the Rams.
Oh, the guy who just put up that crazy
he's Cooper
game?
Cup 2.0, like NECA or something like that. Or anyways, we know who we're talking about.
Yeah, everyone probably knows. If you're watching, you definitely
I think this is just a week where we just see kind of the Bengals. Maybe they don't look their best, but it's one of those weeks where maybe things start to trend the right way and they squeak out a victory. But I think they definitely win by more than a field goal, and especially if Joe's playing. And if Joe on Thursday practices in full participation, I think this line moves 100%. This is going to go up maybe to like 3.5, 4.
I just like the over 43.5. I just, for all the reasons you guys listed, the team just itself is slow starters. Burrow injury or not, he got the bag and just hasn't looked great so far. If he's injured, then the team should have not started him. Point blank. Like, he has not looked good. The team itself hasn't looked good. And Joe Mixon, the boys warned me about him, drafting him in fantasy football. He's the king of, like, 2-yard rushes. I think that this is going to be an explosion of offense. And the Rams haven't looked like that bad offensive. I feel like nobody could have predicted them putting up 20 points against the Niners.
What did Jason say? Nobody runs nobody runs a 2-yard ball better than Joe Mixon.
Yeah, exactly. I got called out by everybody for taking Mixon.
No, I think we're all on the same page here, and
it's a low total too at 43.5.
Yeah, so I think we might as well wrap up here. I think we went a little longer than we were hoping again, but once the boys get talking football, I think it's kind of hard for us to just cut it off. But just to run through my slate here, just to wrap up, I like in Giants San Francisco, I like Brandon Ayuk anytime. San Francisco team total over 27.5. Chargers Vikings, I like over 54.5. Falcons Lions -3. Pats versus Jets -2.5. Steelers versus Raiders, Steelers money line. Eagles versus Bucks, Eagles -5.5. And then my best bet of the weekend for the Monday nighter is going to be Rams versus Bengals, Bengals -2.
Okay. Yeah, I can run through mine. I'll just do my 3, just because honestly, I'm trying to think of a best bet, and like mine, I honestly want to say my best bet was going to be the Bengals as well, but
come join me, man.
You're allowed, yeah.
Come join me, man. Fuck it.
All
More
right.
the merrier.
I'll join him on that because I just think that line is too good right now.
If we lose, we both look stupid.
Yeah,
so
I think
choose company.
I think everything you said too. Like the Bengals can't start the season like this. Like they want to win this game and they want to win it big. So I'll make that my best bet. But my 3 main picks for the week are Jacksonville -9.5 against Houston, Jets money line against the Patriots, and then Titans +3 against Cleveland. Those are my 3.
I just want to remind people at home that we record this Tuesday nights. So I'm not saying we're out here changing our minds about picks, but we're giving out like 8 picks, 6 picks, 7 picks maybe on Tuesday. So some things might change, but I'm going through Bills -6.5, Jets +3, Giants team total under, first half under, Raiders plus the points, or minus the points, excuse me, Eagles first half. Best bet for me is going to be the over in that Falcons and Lions game, over 46.5. Like I mentioned, I'm not high on the Falcons, but I just feel like they're going to give up some points through the air. And the Lions just have a wide range of weapons that the Falcons won't be able to stop. I think 46.5 is too low there of a number. So that's my best bet.
Another solid week here, boys. Obviously went a little longer than we were supposed to again, but it feels like this might just be the run time for the show, that we're not going to be able to cut it down unless we start cutting out some picks. But like I said to Andrew, I think giving out picks, trying to get some winners for everybody is the idea of the show. So if we run a little long, we'll run a little long. But I think the more we kind of get into it, we'll be able to narrow it down. And we're hoping to get it, inside 45 minutes. Went 15 minutes over this week, but I think all the information was good, and it was nice to have Noah back. It was our first time with 3 people in. Noah's going to be reoccurring on here every single week with us. So you're going to get 3 different perspectives. You're going to get a lot of different thought processes, kind of bets that are against each other, indirectly against each other, where we're all not going to hit. So I think it's going to be fun. But for episode 3 of We All Gamble, I'm Jacob. This is Andrew. And Noah as well. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe on the YouTubes. Check us out on all streaming platforms. And we look forward to seeing you in week 4.